What real estate strategy should I be using for my rental property? It's a question I get all the time. There are so many options out there, it can really be overwhelming. But I promise this is a good thing because you have so many opportunities for your portfolio to be successful. Hey everyone, I'm Zeona McIntyre, and I got my start in short-term rentals way back in 2012. Then during COVID, I pivoted to mid-term rentals to accommodate the way that people were traveling and how that was changing. I am the co-author of 30 Day Stay, the investor's guide to mastering the mid-term rental, published by BiggerPockets, of course. I am an investor-friendly agent in Colorado who focuses on utilizing creative financing to get my clients the best deals. This is Bigger Basics, presented by Rent to Retirement. I am so excited to be diving into the differences between STRs, MTRs, and LTRs. If you don't know what those acronyms stand for, don't worry. Stick around and you'll find out. But before we get into all of that great information, I want to give a huge thank you to Rent to Retirement. Right now, Rent to Retirement is giving away tens of thousands of dollars in incentives when you're purchasing a new construction turnkey rental. Here are your options. Number one, up to $20,000 off your new construction rental property. Number two, a 5% down payment credit. Number three, and an interest rate buy down to get you as low as 3.99%. Or number four, no money down on your next turnkey rental. Don't wait, these offers won't last. To learn more, visit renttoretirement.com. That's renttoretirement.com. Or text REI to 33777, REI 33777 to take advantage of these limited time incentives. All right, now back to the different rental strategies you can choose from. Let's start with STRs, or short-term rentals. These are furnished rentals with typical booking windows of a few days to a few weeks, often through platforms like Airbnb or Vrbo, vacation rental by owner. Next, we have midterm rentals, or MTRs. These are also furnished rentals, but they're rented by the month, with a typical length being 3 to 6 months to accommodate traveling nurses. Other tenants may be traveling professionals, students, or people in transitional phases. Finally, let's discuss long-term rentals, or LTRs. These are typically unfurnished with a traditional lease starting at 12 months. These offer stable and predictable income. Now, let's get into the pros and cons of each strategy. STRs are popular in tourist-heavy areas and major cities. They can offer high returns due to premium nightly rates, especially during peak seasons. Plus, you have the flexibility in terms of using it yourself whenever you want. Some pros are high returns, flexibility for personal use, and tax benefits. If you're not familiar with it already, look into the short-term rental tax loophole. Some cons: high turnover, intensive management, potential for regulatory issues, and high expenses. Which is why if you're choosing a short-term rental, you want to be set up for success. If you work with Rent to Retirement and start with a turnkey property, it would make your life so much easier. MTRs strike a balance between the high returns of STRs and the stability of LTRs. They typically require less frequent tenant turnover, reducing management workload, but still have higher rates than traditional long-term leases. Some of the pros: good returns, less turnover, and steady demand. But the cons are that they still require furnishing, and it's more management than long-term rentals. Let's get into long-term rentals next. LTRs are the most hands-off investment option, with less frequent tenant turnover and lower management demands. However, the rental income is usually lower compared to STRs and MTRs, and there's less flexibility for personal use. Some of the pros are stable income, lower turnover, and minimal management. And the cons: lower rental income, less flexibility, and there can be high tenant turnover costs. What to keep in mind when you're choosing the perfect strategy for your rental property. The first thing I'd say is, what is your market demand? For example, with some of my rentals, I like to use short-term rentals for the high peak seasons, which is usually the summer months, and then transition to using MTR or midterm rentals during that slower season. This allows me to fill in a lot of gaps that I would otherwise have that result in expensive vacancies. The next is the time commitment for management. Short-term rental is the most management intensive, midterm rental a little bit less, and long-term rental even less, especially if you have a manager. But it's important to note that it's not necessarily fully hands-off. There can be time invested managing that manager. So it's important to see if your bottom line would do better if you just did the work yourself, or if you really want to have that manager in place. I pivoted my portfolio to MTRs from short-term rentals for a few reasons. One is that there's less turnover, and with less turnover comes less problems or emergencies to handle. For example, cleaners forgetting which day that they need to clean your rental. There are also less expenses with a midterm rental, which also means less bookkeeping and more money in my pocket. And in general, I find that these tenants are a little bit easier. They've got more time in the unit and they're more willing to help and do some things themselves, like change a light bulb. And the last thing I would say when you are trying to choose a strategy is keep in mind what your goals are. Are you trying to get the most cash flow possible so that you can move to part-time or even leave your job one day? Or are you just using this as a general wealth building strategy over time, in which case a long-term rental will do that for you and you can have a lot of equity down the road. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Zeona McIntyre, and you can find me on BiggerPockets. Please come check me out in the forums or send me a direct message. And one more big thank you to our friends at Rent to Retirement for making this video happen. I hope this video helps you get the most out of your investment property. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that you can be the first to see all the new videos just like this from BiggerPockets. We'll see you next time.